Good morning, third period. I'm off in Boston today, so we're going to talk about how to calculate electric potential energy from a group of charges. We're going to continue the investigation of electric field and electric potential that we started the other day on our day one. We're also going to look at a couple of different strategies for calculating electric potential when we have a collection of charges, either discrete charges or a continuous distribution of charge. We're also going to look at equipotential services to understand electric potential. This is a very powerful way to visualize potential or voltage. Now, as we mentioned the other day, if you move in the direction of electric field, you're going to increase the voltage. By doing work, you're increasing the potential energy of a charge. So as you get closer to this source of a positive electric field, that will increase the potential or increase the voltage. You can see this figure here on the right. As you get closer to the positive charge at the center, the voltage will increase. On the other hand, if you had a negative charge creating it, the electric field is going the other direction. If you move in the direction of the electric field, the voltage is going to decrease. In this case, if you were to move against it, you would see the voltage increase. We saw that the other day when we pulled the two plates apart. One had a positive charge and one had a negative charge on it. As it pulled them apart, the voltage went up. So the work against the electric field will increase the electric potential. And again, the potential is the potential energy per charge. Here, this is an equation. I've taken it from the book. The way that they do it, they reverse the limits of the integration. So they say the voltage at point A minus the voltage at point B is going to be the integral from A to B, the electric field dot dl. That way you can see if we wanted to find the voltage difference between a point A and point B as we move along here, we will get a positive voltage difference if you're moving against the direction of the electric field. There'll be a negative potential difference if you're moving in the direction of the electric field. Now, just a side note, this is very interesting. There are different ways of expressing electric field. Now, as I mentioned, voltage is energy per charge, that's joules per coulomb. Now, electric field, we'd learned that's the force per charge, that's newtons per coulomb. Now, if I just do a little bit of algebra here, we say our electric field is equal to newtons per coulomb. Now I could just multiply top and bottom by meters here. So newtons per meter times coulombs per meter. There's no change at all. But Newton meters, that's just force times distance. That's going to give us energy. So that would give us joules. So we'd have joules per coulomb meter. And joules per coulomb are also volts. Therefore, electric field can also be expressed as volts per meter. This is a very common way of expressing electric field. We see the potential difference, the drop over a certain distance. I use this a lot when I was developing transistors. We would have very, very thin gates on on the transistor. The gate would be just a couple of atoms thick. We'd measure the thickness in nanometers. And you could drop a volt across that very small difference. So you could have electric field in the order of 10 to the 9th volts per meter. It's just, for me, I find it a more intuitive way to look at electric field. Now we have a video, one of these Kratoriansky videos. This is a really nice way to visualize voltage and electrical potential energy for different distributions of charges. And also when you have electric fields, you have a conductor in the presence of an electric field, how does that work? I will have you play that separately. We have the link on the calendar. Just play up till just after 4 minutes, up to about 4:40. Beyond that, it starts to talk about how voltage works when the current is in motion. You're welcome to view that, but that's not what we're covering yet in this unit, which is all electrostatics. Here, let's continue on. Let me get this thing to work. Just a second. There we go. Okay, so when we're solving for voltage, your strategies really depend on the situation. We'll do a bunch of problems tonight for the homework you're going to look at different configurations. So in one case, if it's easy to find the electric field, if you can use Gauss's law to find the electric field, then do that. Find the electric field and then integrate to find the voltage. That's certainly what you would do if you just had a point charge, if you had a very simple distribution of charge where the symmetry in Gauss's law allows you to find the electric field. The other approach, the other alternative would be just to add the contribution of each little chunk of charge, each little dq, do the integral to solve it. Your choice depends on the geometry. So let's look at a couple of examples. If we want to find the voltage at a certain distance from an infinite line charge or a conducting cylinder, well, let's use Gauss's law. First step, use Gauss's law to find the electric field. We've done those types of problems before. We've seen that the electric field is going to be, if you've got a charge density lambda, charge per unit length, the electric field is going to be equal to lambda over 2 pi epsilon naught, and it's just going to be 1 over r, have a 1 over r dependence. Now, if you want to find the voltage difference, we're going to integrate that. In this case, we're going to integrate in the direction going out away from, or we'll go toward the charge, so we'll see a voltage difference. As we get closer to this, the voltage will increase. So we're going to do the integral from a point A to point B, the electric field dot with a dl. And see here, in this case, it's going to be very simple. It's just going to be that a term, most of the constants come outside the integral. It's just going to be, we're integrating dr over r. You will have the result you can see here of natural log of b, the distance at b over a. And it'd be a similar thing if you have a conducting cylinder and you're finding the electric field outside of it. You can also do things, you could find, if it's a non-conducting cylinder, you could find voltage differences internal to it as well. On the other hand, if we had a ring of charge, we had done these types of problems at the very beginning of the course when we were looking at Coulomb's law type problems. It would be a real pain to find the electric field and then have to integrate that electric field over distance. That would be a really difficult problem. Far simpler just to find the contribution of each little piece. Just find a little chunk of charge here, a little dq. That will contribute to the potential as we go all the way around. So now the summing up all these charges, we're just doing the integral. We're going to solve this term, find the dq over r. So here's our radius, here's our distance, here's the integral that we're going to solve. And these would be the results that we get. In this particular case, it simplifies in that every point is at the same distance from point P, so they're all going to have the same contribution. We're just going to integrate around the circle, have our full result. In the end, we just have the entire charge at that distance away from point P. Very simple way to do it. And notice in this case also, we're adding all the elements. This is not vectors, we're adding scalars together. So every point contributes, has the full contribution to the voltage. Now this, I'm just highlighting this from your book, all the different strategies for executing the case. These are the things that I had just told you. So look at this carefully and really say, when it's appropriate, solve for the electric field and integrate it. Other cases, just add up the individual voltages from point charges or integrate the contribution of the continuous charge. Okay, so one more thing we want to look at. We're going to look at equipotential surfaces. I touched on this briefly the other day. I want to look at this in a little more detail right now. So equipotential surface is a surface where we have the same voltage at every point. Down below here, we look at a couple of different configurations. If we have a point charge, equipotential is going to be a series of circles out of different radii away from that charge. If we have a dipole, right down the middle, in between the charges, we'll have a constant voltage. If they're equal charges, we're going to have 0 volts right there at the center. There will be a series of equipotentials around each of the individual charges, and then there will be other surfaces in between. If we have equal positive charges, remember at this point, right in between them, the electric field is 0. That's actually a maximum voltage, though, right here at this point. As we get closer to individual charges, the voltage will go up higher, but along this y-axis, that would be the maximum. You can see all these different contours of voltage. This is a way to tell you how the voltage is going to change. It also tells you how the electric field goes. Key thing to realize, the field lines and the equipotential surfaces, they're always mutually perpendicular. Think of this equipotential as a contour map. The slope, the change in the voltage is going to be your electric field. So if we're going downhill, that would be a positive electric field. Okay, let's get this thing to advance properly. One more time. We have to work. Okay, 10 times as a charm. Awesome. Okay, so we have the FET app. I'm going to have you go off on your own. I'm just going to show you a little bit of this. If we use the FET charges and fields, same one we used a few weeks ago to look at electric fields, you can bring this up, and if I bring in a single positive charge, I can drag this tool from the side. You see it has little crosshairs on it. We can draw different equipotentials. If I touch the pencil icon, you see we can measure the potential. I can draw it. We can see where the equipotential would be. Okay, well that's kind of boring, just a single charge. Let's make it more interesting. I'll put in a series of charges here. I'll put in a series of positive charges, a couple of negative charges. If we put in a lot of them, you'll see that we'll get basically a constant electric field in between the plus and the minus. If I now drag this back in here and we start looking at some equipotential, you'll see in between the charges we get a fairly straight line, and it wraps around the other charge. We will do an activity next week. We're going to look at equipotential lines. I'm going to do a mix of this FET activity and some things with some real life, with some carbonized paper and conductors. We will map out equipotential. We'll look at the electric fields, and you can observe here how the arrows in the electric field are perpendicular to the equipotential contours. So take some time to play around with this, use different configurations, use your imagination, see how the equipotential lines, all the contours, present themselves for different types of charge configurations. All right, let's get this thing to quit doing that. And one more time. Okay, I'm just going to go for it this way. One more point. So if we have a conductor, when all the charges are at rest in this electrostatic condition, the surface of the conductor is always going to be an equipotential surface. That also tells us the electric field is always going to be perpendicular to the surface. If there were not the case, then charges would move along the conductor. What happens, charges always move until they're not going to move anymore, until there's no electric field, there's no tangential electric field. So that tells us that the electric field just outside the conductor will always be perpendicular to the surface. The surface of the conductor itself is an equipotential. The entire solid volume within a conductor, remember there's zero electric field. That means there's zero change in the potential. So everything within that volume is going to be at the same potential. So just to wrap up this section, equipotential surfaces allow us to have a visual analysis of the potential and the electric field. We have many strategies for calculating the potential. Sometimes use Gauss's law to find the field. Sometimes go directly, get the potential for each individual little segment of charge. So I will have you go onto the homework now. I will have an answer key available for the homework. I'll also have some strategies, some hints up there. Use that to solve those problems. And I'll be back with you next week. I will see you then. All right, good luck.